Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kickball Podcast. I'm your host for today, Danny Lang. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Matt Poland of FC Naples, one of the new expansion USL League One clubs that's coming up in 2025, just about a month away from kickoff. Coach, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always, I really appreciate the time, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak with someone who has the experience in being able to bring clubs to prominence, especially with Chicago House and the success that they've been able to have, most notably in the Open Cup, but also in NISA and the Midwest Premier League. And then now this new chapter with the new expansion side. If you wouldn't mind telling me about it, what drew you to this project, Naples specifically? I mean, we see so many of these clubs that are popping up now this year, and what's to come next year. What about Naples felt right for you?
Yeah, so first and foremost, personally, it was a great location. My family lives 20 minutes south of Naples in Marco Island. So I've lived here in the off seasons for the last 15 years. So I love the city and the community. It's always special when you can bring in professional sports to a community that you care about.
Mhm.
And then the other aspect is getting to start a brand new team. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges involved with a startup, but you also get to start with a blank canvas and you get to design it and create it how you want. So that's always a desirable factor as a coach because often when you're coming into an environment, you're usually picking up the pieces from the previous
Sure.
regime.
And so it's interesting though too, because not only have you taken this head coaching role, but it's also you also have, at least from the report back in July, that you've got the sporting director role as well. And so that almost doubles your responsibility to a certain extent. I mean, tell me about, how did that conversation go of you being able to take on both of these roles?
Yeah, it's fairly common in the lower leagues of professional soccer that it is a dual role, either head coach and technical director, or head coach and sporting director. And obviously, yeah, it adds more to the plate. But again, you get more control over your organization, right? Because now you're doing the signing of the players and then you're coaching the players, so you can't blame somebody else if you make a bad signing.
Sure. No, and it comes down to really just being able to bring the right people involved in this club and in this organization, people that share to an extent that goal moving forward, but also what every day's practice looks like. You could have that same goal of wanting to win the championship, but if you butt heads constantly in these practices, it becomes tough. I mean, tell me about the kind of quality of player that you were looking for during this offseason, really to, hone in on the successful person who would the kind of person who would be successful at FC Naples.
Yeah, so Naples is, it doesn't have a professional sports team besides us. So the players' involvement in the community is massively important because they are uh, the most famous athletes in the town, right? There's a lot of responsibility for them in the community. There's a lot of demands with them of being the face of the only professional team. So from a community standpoint, the bought into to being a good representation of the club, to being involved in appearances, all of those things were important in the recruitment process. All of the players met with myself and our CEO and talked about the importance of that aspect specifically to the club. Inside of that, we identified kind of three different profiles that we were going after for on the field. So we wanted a group of veterans that have been through many professional seasons, have a lot of experience in a lot of different environments. Then we had a second group was guys that have played in the league, know the opponents, understand the challenges with travel, with referees, with whatever it is. And then the third group is younger players with high potential that we want to develop and hopefully move upwards.
And a bit, I've always been a big proponent of the college soccer game. That's what's been, really just a central part of this podcast. I mean, looking at guys like Carson Henderlong, Justin Weiss, Julian Cisneros. I mean, those are the kinds of guys that going into this environment, I'm really excited to be able to watch moving forward. But again, like you're saying, this is it's one bucket of the guys that you've really been able to tap into. And I think, I mean, each of those three areas, they really bring their own values from their certain experiences. Why those three distinctions? What were certain benefits that you look for from maybe the seasoned guy, as obvious as that sounds, but what do those look like concretely? Maybe for a younger guy who's coming in looking for that first pro contract, he's got it with Naples, and now he's got that leadership to look off. So
Yeah, so in the first year of a club, getting the culture right is massively important. Although players will change throughout years, oftentimes cultures remain the same for better or worse in organizations. So it's really important that you build a firm foundation of culture, and you need veterans to do that. They can speak wisdom into the youth, they can show good professionalism. They've been through all different experiences and good and bad. And so they have just a wealth of knowledge to share with players. You also, it's a professional league and you need to get results on Saturday. So you need a group of guys that are in their prime, ready to go out on Saturday and compete for wins. And then we also, philosophically, as an organization, we want to be known as a pit stop on the road of a career. We don't want it to be the end goal to play at FC Naples. Obviously, we love players. We want them to come here, but ideally, we're seeing players continually move upwards and seeing that success. So we also wanted to bring in a high volume of younger players that have more years to still develop and climb the ranks of professional soccer.
very nice. I appreciate the insight on that, coach. I don't want to
Mhm.
be, look, my whole thing, I never want to be too intrusive. I'm never looking for the investigative journalism. But I really do appreciate you giving me that insight on that end.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I have, just one broader question though. I mean, with really only about a month left until this first kickoff and you being able to be back out onto the pitch, back coaching, being the first ever the first manager of this FC Naples squad, and again, just having that in the not so distant future anymore. What is the surrounding of this club, this front office, this city really feeling? What's this feel like, for to tell this to a kid who's in New York on the other side of the lateral country, to explain this to him in some sort of way? What does this look like?
Yeah, from the community, a lot of excitement. Everything we've done that we've opened up to the community, the response has been amazing. We had our jersey reveal on a Wednesday night before Christmas, at 7 p.m. and 500 season ticket members showed up to watch the jersey get revealed for the first time. So it's the buy-in from the community is there. They're excited for having a professional team that they get to support in their backyard. From the players, obviously excited. From us as front office and coaches and all, we're in the working towards the goal of the first game, but with so many unknowns, right? Until
Right.
until that first game day, what is the game day experience actually like for a fan? What is the performance on the field from the players? There's just a lot of question marks, and that's natural of where we're at until we get into it. And then the most important thing from on the field and off the field is adaptability, right? Whatever that first product you put out, reflect, analyze what can change, what can improve, how can we make it the best experience for the community to come out and watch us and support us.
And I've got no doubt. I mean, you talk about the jersey reveal night. I mean, I've followed through and whoever's running the social media has done a great job. They've kept me invested.
Amazing.
Oh man.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
you talk about the jersey reveal though too. I mean, holy cow, to have that many people, and it serves the benefit of it being a professional team in Naples, and there obviously being the excitement around that, and like we talked about, but to continually see the support from the community is so huge, and I think that goes back to what you were talking about of just being a presence in the community and off the pitch. That's something that's just going to go hand in hand. It's been such a mutual relationship, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, the club, we can do everything right from our side, but ultimately, if the community doesn't support us, we're not successful, right? So what I appreciated very much from ownership and all when I joined is how much they value doing it right for the community and understanding that yes, we are, owners or the head coach, but we serve the community first and foremost.
I mean, for what it's worth, from again, 19-year-old kids still in college, it's something that I really, love to be able to hear. Again, I feel weird even saying that, but that's something that I really like, just to be able to have that perspective and know that it certainly is real.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So, Coach, I mean, I want to hear more just about your general journey, being a footballer in the United States, and what that journey is like, how you've gotten yourself into coaching as well. I mean, you don't see every former player making that realm onto the other side of excuse me, making the transition into coaching. Tell me about your journey. I want to know a little bit more about you, and I want to give the viewers a chance to know more about, someone who's got a decorated resume in soccer.
Yeah, so I went to university, played soccer there, and then after signed with an organization called Bridges Sports Management, and they were at the time very connected in the Scandinavian market. So after college, went over, played over in Finland and Sweden for 4 years. Over there, I had a career-ending injury, and then moved into coaching. I actually took over. I was playing for a club, and 5 months later was named the head coach of the club. So went from being teammates with these players to being their head coach, and some of them were older than me, and having to deal with that and those relationships. It was wild. Kind of crazy now looking back that I did it. I don't know if I would have done it with the knowledge I know now, but it was incredible learning experience. Gained so much insight into things, made mistakes, learned from it. Ended up signing a contract extension over there, um, and continued my coaching there. And then in 2021, I joined Chicago House as an assistant coach under CJ Brown. It was just kind of a perfect opportunity for me to learn under such an experienced head coach with, a crazy resume as a player and amazing resume as a coach in the MLS. He had just come off of working with the U23 national team. So it was amazing to learn from him, and it was great. It was a startup club, and so got to experience building a club from the ground up, seeing the good and the bad, and the struggles with it, and the challenges with it. Unfortunately, ran into financial problems with the club, so he left and joined the Chicago Fire as an assistant coach. And then I took over as the head coach and had to rebuild it again because we only had two players that remained from the professional leagues into the Midwest Premier League. So had to build a club from the ground up with that, and learned a lot through that experience as well. And as you said, we had a lot of success in the Open Cup as a team. And yeah, then when this opportunity opened up, it felt like the right time for my personal growth, to take on this challenge.
And I think what's so interesting about that move though too is you talked about, um, and this is something that I talked about with Dave Carton over at Westchester, but he also had an experience with Charlotte Independence in that assistant role of seeing the growth of an expansion team. And that's not something that's new to you either, though, too. What do you think you've been able to translate from that experience and, again, a similar role in this case, just with League One, is, what are the similarities and what are the differences that maybe wouldn't be known so much on my end?
Yeah, the biggest is patience. Biggest is patience. Right? Every player that we bring in, is viewing their past experience of a club, and their viewpoint is where the team was at 10 months into the season, right? Because your last memory of a team is the end of the season.
Right.
And with that, some of those teams have been around. Some of those players, the majority of them have been with the team for 2, 3 years. So now you're talking 20, 30 months of growth as a unit that you're experiencing it versus now you come into this environment. It's 23 guys from 23 different clubs,
Right.
right? And we're 3 weeks in. And it's really easy to compare, that former club to this. And this isn't that. And it never will be that. We're a different environment. We're a different team. We're a different coaching staff. We're in a different market. So everything has to be different. And there's always a struggle, right? Anytime something's different, it feels wrong at first. Humans like routine and something that's comfortable. And so now it's building something that it's new to everybody. Right. When you come into a locker room and 15 guys return from the year before, might be new for you, but the 15 guys that were there are going, no, this is normal. This is what it is. We don't have that, right? It's new for everybody. We're going through every process for the first time as a group. So, how does training look? How does travel look? How does, the way we eat, when we meet, when we lift, all of that is new to everybody. And it takes time to get comfortable with that. And also with the product on the field, right? Everybody's new and learning each other and learning where they want the ball, how they want the ball, what's their movement off the ball, all of that. And you can't speed that process up. There's no there's no way you can just, flip a coin and everyone's on the same page, right? And so it's just kind of staying present in the moment, working on the things you can improve this, and understand that development and growth individually and as a team is a day by day process that takes time. And so it's kind of don't get so focused about what the future holds, but just stay present in today. Because who we were in week one isn't who we are in week four now, which is not the same team that you'll see March 8th. And the team you see March 8th won't be the team you see May 8th or August 8th. And understand that there has to be a process, and some parts might speed up and be really fast, and some might take longer and be slower, but it's okay. It's the natural process when you build a new team.
And so have you had to have sometimes some of without getting too intrusive, and that's not my intention, but have you had to sometimes have these conversations with players or other people in the organizations about, being present in the moment, knowing that there will be growth, but just continuing to better yourself every day?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's athletes want to win. They want to be the best, right?
Right.
With that, sometimes you want it to be a switch that immediately success happens. But just like anything in life, right? I talked a couple of days ago, and it's like, think about when you learned how to run. You didn't stand up one day. You didn't go from scooting on your butt to sprinting to the speed you are now. That process was learning to stand on wobbly legs, learning to take 2 or 3 steps and falling, then learning how to walk, then learning how to jog, then learning how to sprint, then developing the sprint into the sprint speed that you have today. And that was a journey and a process that you went through. Now, as a young kid, right, you don't even maybe notice it. Your brain hasn't developed. And so it's just actions that you're doing. But in that same set, like, you had patience with yourself to learn it. You weren't at a year trying to sprint, right? You're just trying to find your legs. And so, in the same sense, like, reflect on it, have patience. Yes, demand the best from each other, but also give grace and understanding that this is a journey.
Yeah. No, fascinating. And I think that's a perfect analogy to talk about, though, as well. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, not that I'm going to be going to your players asking about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've heard the same analogy because it's something that fits so perfectly with what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so now, just to talk about another point, that's I wanted to ask a little bit about the first coaching gig that you had. Maybe saying, that's not necessarily a transition you would have made right away, but the ambition and knowing what the other side would be able to bring for you, still having older guys on that team, and then now taking this different role. What was that adjustment period like? It's something that I feel like I can't even really imagine just because I've never seen it before. But what were those conversations like? And then, finishing out the season, gaining the trust of that locker room.
Yeah. I mean, so many life lessons come to
Right.
mind, but I think the overarching view for me that I took away is the value of communication. Um, Players, anybody, when left to their own thoughts, will try to solve, oh, why is coach not talking to me? Why did coach not start me? Whatever, whatever, whatever. And sometimes you can be right. Sometimes you can go far off on the wrong path. And what I've come to find out is a player might not always agree with your assessment or agree with your decision. But if you tell them and you're open and honest of why you made the decision, they at least know where you're coming from. And now there's a base ground to start from in the process of changing that or developing that. And so I just found that having the open, hard conversation, although maybe difficult in the moment, is much more beneficial to the long-term relationship of the coach and the player.
And so that's something that will come up in the nature of it being an expansion team where you've got to have these conversations with 23, 24, 25 players saying, we want to bring you on the team, but this is what we have to run. These are the decisions that need to be made. And without getting so far into, yeah, I'm trying to just be cautious here. I don't want to
No,
get,
no, but it's in any sports, right?
right.
Like, you have 23 players, only 11 start.
Mhm.
So half the guys are mad every game, right? Because that's how they put, food on their table, is by playing and getting another contract. So half of the guys are going to be upset that they're not starting every week, right? So it's natural in the sport, but what I found is players respect open, honest conversation, and at least they understand why the decision was made. Again, they might not agree with it, and that's fine, right? They don't have to agree with everything the coach says, but at least they can then know why the coaches made the decision they did.
And it's something, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's crucial at every level and will certainly be, just with this upcoming year that, I mean, with some of the signings that we've been able to see and the team that you've been able to put together, I mean, I really don't expect anything other than you guys being able to compete not only for a playoff push, but getting just as far as you guys can. I mean, what have those conversations been like when you get all the guys together, you've got your foundational group and guys just start to talk about what they're looking forward to, a new expansion team, a new start, and all the goals that looks forward to. I mean, what if those conversations look like generally?
Yeah, I don't put emphasis or energy on things out of our control.
Mm.
So playoffs is a goal people talk about. There's aspects of making playoffs that are in your control. There's also aspects outside of it because you need results from other teams to go certain ways or whatever. Even inside of that, you can't control everything in a game, right? What if a ref calls a PK that's not a PK and now you lose because of it? You can't control it. So my talks to the team, my emphasis is on focusing on us, 100% on the things in your control. So it's how you're leading yourself, how you're developing, how you're growing, how the team standards are. Are we holding ourselves and the guy next to each other, next to you, to a certain standard? Ultimately, if my belief is if you continually focus on doing the right things and continually build upon that weekend, if every week we can see growth as a team, as individuals, the outcomes take care of themselves. And that was my philosophy at House. I never talked about a game and winning a game. That was never the focus, even inside of the game. If you're thinking about minute 90th in minute 70, you're not going to make the best decision in minute 70. Focus on doing the next right action in minute 70, right? If you're down 2 goals and you think, oh, we need to score 2 goals to tie, no, you need to score 1 goal. Focus on getting the first goal. After you get the first goal, then you focus on the next because you can't score 2 goals at once. So it's more breaking it down to staying more present in the exact moment and not looking too far ahead at things outside of your control.
So I think the first thought that came to mind of where you were thinking about, and it may be something that's just different between controlling every action that you can and something that I hear all the time is just one game at a time. But that's something you're taking it to a deeper level of one play at a time because you can't just look at one game as a whole. Like you're saying, you can't look at minute 90 without looking at minute 70. And so how long did it take for you to really realize that kind of notion to where you're really thinking through everything that you're saying to your players? It's something that's so vital, but I feel like just me on the outside, I don't fully understand, or these things aren't something that I'm really fully thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, just done through reflection. You see in games how many goals are scored in stoppage time.
Mhm.
Well, how many players in the 90th minute start thinking, oh, the game's over? And then one missed action, one set piece, whatever it is, and now the outcomes change. So it's more of just the belief of staying present in the only action you can control is that action right there. Because you don't know what the game will be in a minute. Maybe there's a red card in a minute. Now everything's changed. Maybe you score a goal off of something or whatever it is. Like you don't know what's going to happen in the next minute. So obviously, as a coaching staff, right, we need to make decisions based on what we think is going to happen in certain areas, such as with subbing and formational changes. So we're looking ahead a little. The player doesn't need to look ahead. Just focus on the next action. If you have the ball and you have to make a pass and you're thinking about 3 passes from now, you're not going to do the best in that action because your mind and energy isn't 100% in that action. So I think it's easier too to have success as a player or as a team if you're truly bought into focusing just in that moment of doing the right thing and not worrying about anything else.
So do you find it sometimes hard to not well, yeah, to reprogram players in a way where to really think about each additional action, like you're saying. I mean, how many guys turn their brain off when and I don't say this as personal experience, but to take that anecdote, thinking that the game is all sealed up, you get a stoppage time equalizer, and now you've lost 2 points off of what could have been a win. And then to go back on the note that I was talking about, do you find it hard to again reprogram that mindset of the player to just think every best action moving forward? How do you make sure to coach that?
Yeah, I mean, you do it in training every day, right? A player disagrees with a call that the coach made in training, and 2 minutes later, they're still complaining about it. And it's kind of reset their brain to next action, whatever, how you set up sessions, you can create things where, there's constantly an action after an action so that they're always thinking, what's next, what's next, what's next, those sort of things. And obviously, um, we all need mental reminders at times as well, right? But you watch how many players lose focus or emotional discipline based on a referee's call. You
Mm,
can't change a referee's call. And once he's made the call, he's not going to change it back, right? But 5 minutes later, if you're still mentally annoyed with that action, you're not staying present in this action. So, that's a process for a player to learn, and some it's easier than others. And also it depends, yeah, where they came from, environment, and all of those things play factors in that as well.
sure. So tell me about the staff that you've been able to surround yourself with and surround these players with. How particular, going off of this same mindset of looking at every individual action, but also wanting to complement the skill sets and the players that you've brought in. Tell me about the staff. Talk up about the staff of FC Naples that you've been able to surround yourself with.
Yeah, so I have two assistant coaches and a goalie coach and then an analyst. And all of them come from very diverse experiences. The biggest thing for my assistant coaches is their quality in the IDPs. Again, if we want to be a club that's known as a development club that moves players onwards and upwards, we have to put an emphasis on the individual improving. And a quote that I enjoy a lot is the strength of the pack is the wolf. The strength of the wolf is the pack. So um, as you focus on individual development plans and improve the individual, the team improves because of that as well. So the coaches are very good at, how can we take a player and layer on more nuanced positive things into their game so that their profile continues to improve. Um, I think it was Kobe Bryant that talked about every summer in the off season, he would try to add one element to his game, one type of new way to score, whatever. And that's kind of what you're doing with a player. Every time you can add one skill set to their arsenal, now you've made them that much more desirable from a higher team and that much more dangerous on the field.
And I think it's an approach that I haven't heard so much from other clubs with the IDP mindset of wanting to develop your players and move them on to higher leagues, and almost seems counterintuitive about, well, you want to maintain these players while you can, but this is going to create this further goes into creating the culture like we keep talking about players wanting to come to Naples to play under your system, to play under the system with assistant coaches and just building the culture as a whole. I think it's something that you guys have certainly gotten right, at least from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, I said the biggest problem I would like to have is I'm constantly calling agents trying to find new players. At House, we were able to get 15 guys signed pro contracts in 2.5 years. So it was about every 60 days we were losing a player to a pro contract. And does it hurt in the moment to lose a talented player? Absolutely. But it makes recruiting a lot easier when you show a pathway, right? If you show that you can develop a player, players are more willing to come here because they see you as that stepping stone that they need in their career, right? Obviously, yeah, it's sad to lose a player, but for me, one of the biggest joys is seeing a player that I've coached now playing on a bigger level, and having that experience and being a small part of that process.
No, fascinating. And I think it also comes from the sense of you having been a player yourself, where you see that perspective of wanting to bring guys and see those guys succeed moving forward. But again, still that mindset of winning every next action, I should say, and then those resulting to the results that will follow and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, I want to talk about a few of the other community partners that have been brought in, with Naples in general. I mean, Great Wolf Lodge, I think is one of the headliners at least, and I mean, I know Rob Gronkowski was at one of the events with you guys, and the other, I think there was a dental hygiene or a dental office partner that was here. So I mean, looking at the social media again, it seems like there was someone new every 3 days that would want to be involved with this club, and it seems like the front office is certainly harbored that notion of being community based and wanting partners in on this club. I mean, you know, are you involved with those conversations as a sporting director just to look at those full scope? What does that look like?
Yeah, no, our partnerships have been amazing. It's been an awesome process to get to see so many amazing companies want to be involved with us, and seeing them bought into the vision of what FC Naples can be is has been really special. Because again, we don't succeed without the community support. So, we've got big companies that are more national, and then we have the local, you know, store, and each of those are important. Each one brings a different value to the organization, and one's not more important than the other. And so it's been awesome to see the community, both in the individual as fans and also as the business side of it, really support us.
Yeah, no, fascinating. And it's something that, you know, and I don't know the sense of the these dealings and what that look, but that's just going to create a more yeah, as we see more of these, well, however it ends up following out through this following year, how it ends up being something that's a huge entertainment central for Naples, you're only going to attract more people that are want going to be a part of this club.
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the
And
hope.
that's coming from a second year like a business-ish student. You're
Yeah.
my diagnosis with that, but fascinating. So
Yeah.
and I guess really my last thought on this, and coach, I really do appreciate your time, and again, I want to be sensitive to yours as well, and I really appreciate the conversation. But with again, we keep talking about this lead up, and the team will be different even a month from now and what this looks like. These guys are itching to be able to get back out there. I mean, I know some of these college guys are ready to get their pro career started. You got guys looking for things to prove in this upcoming year. How do you keep the locker room level-headed and understanding that, again, going back to this notion, every play matters. Do every play right. What does the next month look like for you in this locker room?
Yeah. Again, it's not even looking ahead the full month. It's kind of, we have a game on Wednesday. So it's right now preparing for that preseason game. And then after that game, we get another assessment of where we are. And then what can we work on and build on for the next preseason game. And again, just kind of breaking it down day by day, training session by training session. Again, understanding you might have all the great answers in the world. You can't give them all to the players overnight. And so it's how do we just slowly layer this information, and continually grow and continually develop, continually improve on our game model and principles, but not, again, not looking so far ahead. I think there's aspects where you need to look ahead, but I think as a team, sometimes staying a little more present helps get to where you want to go faster than looking ahead all the time.
Coach, a very insightful conversation that I've been able to experience. I know people back home will be able to watch us and really learn more just about you as a person, the kind of coach that you are. Really not. I wasn't expecting to learn as much as I was, and I'll say that honestly, having done 120 interviews, countless ones with coaches in the league, this has definitely been one of the best conversations that I've really been able to have with a coach. And I'll always be thankful for you with this. You've got a supporter in me the rest of the way, but I also want to leave the floor open in case there's anything that you want to say to, or anything that you would feel is appropriate to put out there. I'm not sure, again, I'm not trying to draw anything out of you, but anything that comes to your mind or anything that I didn't touch on, I'll leave the
No,
floor.
I no, I appreciate it. I think it's exciting starting a club. And fans are always excited and all of that, which is great. And there's a lot of excitement with a new club, which is energizing as a coach, right? Because you want to do right by the fans and the community. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest just with any startup, anything, right, is you look at Microsoft or whatever, and Microsoft didn't become Microsoft overnight either, right? Started in a garage, and there's this process, and we understand it sometimes in business, and sometimes we struggle maybe to understand it in sports because you jump into a league and you suddenly have to get results, right? And obviously, it is a result-driven business, so there's this duality of results, but also a process of development that you're constantly living with a new club, and it's exciting. But it's definitely a unique challenge when you're starting a new club.
and I'm excited to continue covering it, whether it be whether it be player interviews. I know I got to talk with Christian Heckenberg, however far back when he was with his last club. Justin Weiss is a Long Island guy, and I'll be rooting for him for sure. But you've got a supporter in me, and the rest of Kickball the rest of the way, and you always got the support, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.